So I'm 6 days away from moving abroad, and it's starting to kind of hit me how crazy this whole trajectory has been. Sorry, I'm eating lunch. I'm about to finish, but okay, I decided to stop eating to kind of give you guys the update. So I decided to move abroad about 6 months ago. I took my first Euro trip. I was feeling so confident, so bold, and when I came back, I just felt it in my spirit. I'm like, I really want to go live abroad, specifically Spain. I fell in love with the city of Madrid. There was just something in my heart that was like, you need to go back. Basically, making that decision opened up a whole new chapter of what would it look like if I were to move. And I said, I want to be there in 6 months. Why? I don't know. My soul was like 6 months. I didn't realize what I was unlocking because so much had to happen. There was so much I had to release. There was so many changes that happened so quickly. So I come back November 3rd. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna move. You know, the first week is all jet lag. I'm like trying to get back into the flow. I go back to work. November 16th, I end up in the emergency room. So I'm having this stomach pain. They couldn't figure out what it was. Fast forward 2 months into the future, my gallbladder, really bad. I had like, I think it was like 15 or 16 episodes of it flaring up. It got to a point that I had to get it taken out. Number two, a couple days after that, I started getting like nerve pain on my face. And I was like, well, what is going on? It was a molar that had to come out. Fast forward another month, that molar also had to come out. So between the gallbladder and the tooth, they were kicking my butt. The whole time I'm like, I'm moving in 6 months. I'm moving in 6 months. So I was like, okay, I have to sell my condo. Okay, I have to talk to my employer. Okay, I have to tell my friends. I have to start talking about it because if I'm gonna do this thing, people gotta know. So I told my family, guys, I know this sounds crazy, but I really feel like I want to move to Spain. They're like, well, what do you mean? But again, they were not surprised. So then I'm reaching out to a couple people I met while I was in Madrid, and they're like referring me to attorneys and telling me how to do a visa. And I just started doing research, asking questions, looking into it. One thing led to another, and after talking to the attorney, I'm like, okay, I'm really thinking of like doing legal paperwork to move to a country that I don't even know that I love. I was there for maybe 6 or 7 days between Madrid and Barcelona, and although I felt that pull and I'm in love with it, I was like, is it worth the money, the time, the investment, and the effort to do a visa right now? Around the same time, my dad is retiring this summer. My sister's going to be traveling with them as well, my mom and dad. And they decided to be digital nomads. Not digital nomads, just to literally travel. They're retired. My sister has a job, but they're just going to travel the world for as long as they can until my parents are in a position where they're like, okay, let's just buy a home, right? But I'm talking about, I'm moving to Spain. I'm talking to attorneys. I'm doing research. And mind you, I'm also having the gallbladder flare-ups, the tooth, all of that happening at once. But basically, they inspired me to be like, why am I settling on one place? Like, what if I just travel around for a little bit and I figure out what I love? Maybe I do love Madrid. I go back and I'm like, oh my God, this is the place for me. But maybe there's another place I've never been to that hits deeper or that feels better. So then I decide, okay, digital nomad. So by this point, we're getting into the holidays. Christmas time is happening. I was talking to a guy that I met in Denmark, but a lot was going on in my life. So then comes January. January brings emergency surgery, which was a miracle. Literally, it went from like the hospital delaying, we don't know what it is, to them figuring it out, to putting my surgery a month in the future. At this point, I was having 2 to 3 flare-ups a week. And every time I had a flare-up, I'm talking numbing pain, rolling on my bed, crying myself to sleep. But they told me if you go to the emergency room, they're going to do a big scar. They're just going to take you to the surgery room, take out your gallbladder. But if I waited till my surgery, then it would be microscopic, it would be harmless. The point is, it got to a point that it got so severe, I was telling my friends, guys, I physically cannot go to game night because I can't get out of bed. I feel so wiped. And the sister of a friend who happens to be in the medical field posted in a Facebook group. And the wife of a surgeon reached out to her, who reached out to me, and then my surgery was scheduled within 48 hours. So miracle number one. So I finally am gonna get my gallbladder surgery. Everything is working out. I go to another hospital. A week before, not a week, like within the same days of this happening, I had to have my tooth taken out, emergency, because at this point the nerve pain had gotten so bad that I was like, something's wrong. So I go get x-rays. They tell me what needs to happen. Expensive. Dental care in America is so fucking overpriced. But the point is, they take out my tooth. I'm recovering from that. I'm eating like what do you call it, non-solid foods like oatmeal and like, I don't know, applesauce, liquids, literally coconut water. So I drop a ton of weight, and then I have surgery. So that also happened. And around the same time, I had two friendships, which I'm going to say loosely, one of 23 years and one of like 11 years, people that I'm like, oh, they're going to be in my life forever. But right around this time, it was like life pulled them out of my life in ways that were like, oh, okay. So again, I'm recovering from surgery, but the whole time my mind is, I'm moving to Europe, I'm going to go to Spain, this is going to work out. So I had already given up the becoming legalized and going that route, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to do the digital nomad thing and visit. And then it's like, man, I keep having all these delays and all these things I'm having to go through and lose and experience. Why do I want to go to Spain so bad? So I started not to question my decision, but to like, how much more am I willing to lose? So right around the time that I'm recovering from surgery, grieving these friendships, processing the tooth, and I know this sounds so minimal, but all of it is happening at once, right? That dynamic with the guy that I was talking to kind of flared out, but again, other berries popped up. The point is, there was a lot of like, what is going on? So my emotions are all over the place, and I'm like, do I really want this? So I doubled down. I put my foot down and I was like, 6 months, I can do this. It doesn't matter what I have to lose, I'm gonna go for it. So by this point, I've talked to my boss. She had agreed for me to be fully remote. I had told my friends, my family, people already know Jordy's leaving, but in my brain, I was like, oh yeah, summer. Not summer. Fast forward a little bit longer, I'm recovering, I'm making moves. I put the condo on the market. We're about to sell. We're about 3 or 4 days from closing. We fall out of contract. I'm like, are you joking? Miracle number 2, something really beautiful happened where it ended up working out, where like it's a blessing for someone, but it also took it out of my hands, meaning I'm free to go. So the condo turned out to be a magical thing, and that was done. So here I am moving out, packing all of my stuff, going to live with my parents, which at the time was like, oh, but also, you know how much money you save when you don't have to pay a mortgage, when you don't have to pay bills, when you don't have to pay insurance. So all of this stuff for the house, now I no longer have to worry about, right? But then I move in with my parents and the countdown is on, because at this point it's like, I can't go back. There is no home to go back to. My life in Atlanta, people know that I'm leaving, and all of these changes are still happening. So this was around March. I'm at my parents still, and I am leaving now on May 3rd. So today is April 27th. Right around March, my brother visits, and he sits me down and has a very direct conversation with me with something that I was avoiding, and that is my dog, Coco. There was no part of my brain or my plan that did not include Coco, my dog, coming with me. The reality is that it was becoming almost like I was so attached to how it had to be that I was unwilling to let go. And my brother is probably the only person that can piss me off enough to break through the wall, and then clarity hits. And I'm like, oh my God, I cannot take Coco with me. So here comes the grief. Here comes the guilt. Here comes the, I'm a terrible dog parent. What am I doing? So processing all of that. But then eventually finding peace. Again, this is where I'm a life coach. I do inner work. I deal with my shit. I know what I have to do, but rehoming her, now selling my car, that's a whole nother ordeal. So lost friendships, surgery, tooth removal, losing my condo, moving out of my home, living with my parents, which again, they're about to retire. I'm also not gonna have a home to come back to here. They're about to travel, right? So my entire world in Atlanta just shifted. My entire life shifted. One decision of, I just wanna move abroad, turned into my whole identity changing in a matter of months. And what's funny, November 3rd is when I came back from Europe. May 3rd is when I leave America. Now I'm gonna start in Colombia, then I am gonna eventually make it to Spain, and I have a lot more stuff planned, but y'all, this journey of making a decision, of deciding to show up as future you, of moving on faith, of going through so much. If you told me in November how much I would have to lose, how much I would have to shed, how much I would have to give up, how much of me would have to die for me to step into the version of me that's ready to get on that plane, I would have told you, you know what, let's give it another 2 years. I literally would have looked at you and been like, you're fucking crazy. But now that I am here, I am 6 days away. Whatever decision, whatever it is that you want, whatever it is that you're calling in, my love, do not be afraid. Move in faith, because everything you're losing, you're about to gain tenfold. And this is before I even know what's coming. It's just the feeling of like when something from your soul tells you to go, fucking go. Now, if you want to follow along, I'm going to be posting way more on this as I live this experience, but I'm running out of time. So